updates on Sunoco, and then we wanted to touch again with questions and follow up with regards to last month's waste treatment update. And then we will go into our regular agenda, which is quite lengthy. So anyway, I figured we would get these two important issues done first. So in turning it here, Casey, we brought David back.
We do. We've got David Berman with High Schwartz here to provide an update on Mariner 1/2 and provide an update on the settlement agreement that the township and the citizens group signed last year. So I'm going to turn it over to David for the update. Thank you.
Is it okay if I just stand here?
Absolutely.
Not sure where anybody can hear me, but if you can't, please just let me know. Thank you, Casey, Chairman, members of the board. My name's Dave Broman. I represented, along with Ken Myers last year, the Board of Supervisors in West Goshen Township in regard to the case against Sunoco. And that case, as everyone knows, was settled back in August. So this is a brief or quick update, if you will, on the settlement agreement where we are. There were several operative paragraphs requiring Sunoco to do certain things and not do certain things. First was, it was restricted as to where they could construct the vapor combustion unit, which is necessary for the pump stations for the products that they're pumping through the pipeline right now. That was built at the location that was specified in the settlement agreement. That was certified by their engineers along with an as-built plan, and it was verified by the township staff. The second requirement was screening and buffering along Loop Road and to the neighbors. That one is still a work in progress. As most people know, they built a new brick wall along Loop Road, and they've met with the township several times in regard to what else they can do in regard to buffering both landscaping and fence to the other areas. They're limited because they're right on the property line with the green fence, and there's piping in and around there that restricts what they can and can't do. So they are proposing to the township some new plans for new fencing. In case it's exploring the possibility of, if wanted, landscaping on what would be neighbor property. So that is all a work in progress. The second was to record a deed restriction. This was perhaps the most important provision, which would limit what they could do on their, quote, newly acquired property. That's what started the entire litigation. That deed restriction prohibits any new pump station, new valve station, or anything above ground. It permits temporary storage of piping and equipment during construction of Mariner East 2, but it has to be for a limited period of time, and it has to be restored to its original condition when completed. That deed restriction has been recorded. That was recorded back in August. And then lastly, or I should say next to last, there was an extensive safety review done by Richard Kuprowicz. As many people know, he's known to be a preeminent pipeline expert. Richard reviewed everything and recommended that 2 additional remotely controlled valves be installed to more adequately protect residents of West Goshen Township in the event of any kind of leak or release. Those valves have now been installed. And last but not least, Richard was asked, or permitted, if you will, in the agreement to take a look at ME2 and do effectively the same safety review they did for ME1. Richard has reached out to them several times, and they really weren't ready because the route hadn't been completed. And until the route's completed, they weren't sure exactly where different elements would go. That route has now been completed. Richard's in touch with a gentleman by the name of Michael Slough, and they're in the process of exchanging information. So that information will be exchanged. The new confidentiality agreement will be entered into, and then they will prepare a report for this board. So that is the status of the settlement agreement.
Do you know how long it would take before we'd be able to, of course, we can always get in touch with everybody to update. For that, we would want that review public as soon as we could get it.
I'll have a better idea probably middle of next week. There was a little delay because Mr. Slough was actually in the hospital. He's recovering from minor surgery. So why don't I be in touch with Kristen as to timing and work through Kristen as I have and Casey and let you know the timing of that in terms of getting it. I suspect it'll take at least 60 days.
Yeah, it took 2 to 3 months last time for the full review of Mariner 1, so probably 6 months.
And is there, and flipping back for your points, and points that stick to me, because of between, I know Chris has received and I've received contact, you've answered the question that the valves are in and they're installed. As we knew they were in, I just didn't know that they were verified by Mr. Kupowicz. But the screening, you mentioned that there are additional options for the screening, meaning, in other words, because of site, size, you're in conversation to determine whether the screening, they would encroach on somebody's private land and put in additional screening. Is that what you meant?
Actually, I've been sort of nudging to make sure that the attorneys are directing their staff to get in touch with the township. It's probably required a little more nudging than I'd like, but suffice it to say, there will be a new fence. The extent of screening will depend upon really how much they can do on their property, which seems to be very limited, and whether neighbors want to put it on their property at Sunoco's expense.
And where does that stand? I guess the time, is that going to you, Rick? Is that where that conversation? So what, I guess I'm just, now that you're here and the questions that I know that we've had to our resident, I just want to get an idea of, because some of them are going to contact me and say, well, all right, we're supposed to know in 2 months on this, where are you? And I just want to make sure that we know what to follow up on. So this screening issue, I need to...
Yeah, I mean, the site constraints are very difficult. The existing fence, which probably goes back 50, 60 years, I don't know, which backs up to the McFalls family on Mary Jane Lane. There's two properties, residential properties on Mary Jane that back up directly to the site. The Sunoco fence, which is a mix of chain link and wood, is right on the property line. There's a mix of arborvitae, very ancient arborvitaes and other plants that are 40 feet tall, are right on the property line. Interior of that, there is process piping, which is 18 to 36 inches deep, which would negate any plantings of any kind because you obviously can't do that. The only obvious option is to ask those two property owners, and we have to check if Sunoco's even willing to do this, is to create a new buffer, keep the old existing stuff there, because it does provide a good 45-foot buffer, existing buffer, visual screening at least. We would probably need 20 feet inside the McFalls and the other family that lives there on their property to create a berm and then do plantings. I don't know if they're going to agree to that, but I wanted to wait until Sunoco would agree to investigate and pay for those improvements before we spoke to the family, because they may not agree to the improvement. So the site constraints are very difficult to plant anything because there's so much process piping all over the place. But that kind of ugly green fence that's up there right now, we've asked them to replace that with something more attractive and to provide a real, very definitive barrier.
And they're going to do that?
They're going to do that. They have examples for us to go look at, and they're supposed to provide us in the next week or so with some locations where they already have it installed.
Yeah, I would suggest, we had a meeting with them where we talked about these things, and it was really in their And I said, why can't you continue the wall instead of that ugly green fence? And that was one of the things they were gonna look into and get back to us on.
Because I think it would really help if they finished it on the food ride side,
Right.
because it's gonna block half of, at least that height of the VCU.
Correct.
The other question I had was, has it been verified by Mr. Kuberitz that the valves have been installed, or is it we just relying on Sunoco to say that?
Right now, we're relying on them. He's not been out to verify, but I'm happy to pursue that too.
I think well, somebody has to verify it, I would think. I don't think we should take their word for it. I think it has to be verified that they're actually operational as well.
I agree.
One other question I had. The review of Mariner 2, is that going to be prior to their construction? Is it going to be completed prior to their construction, or?
They'll certainly be completed prior to construction.
Okay, thanks.
It's my understanding that they're looking at a, late summer start.
Thank you.
Just one other follow-up question. Do you know the location of these control valves?
We do.
Yeah, it's spelled out in the settlement agreement.
One's upstream,
Specific
one's
location.
downstream.
Yeah, they were beyond our borders. I know that was in the agreement. And your name?
Sure, Rich Evans.
Dave, I have a question. Was Mr. Kupowitz going to prepare some sort of written report, at least for the board, to understand that after he does review Mariner 2?
Yeah, that's the direction that I've asked.
Okay.
Is there a Mariner 3 yet?
No, in other meetings I've had on other cases with them, Mariner 3 has not been decided.
Thanks, Steve.
To answer your question, sir, under the agreement, the valves are at pipeline markers 228 and 236.6.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the update for, I think, Chris. Chris, do you have any more? You've not gone back and forth with this. I've gone with regards to the update on the site.
Yeah, one of the questions Lydia asked, I was just going to ask, who verified it, and if we were just taking Sunoco's word for verification, which I think is very important that we do, to her point, that we do have third-party verification.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'll find it myself.
Yep.
And, Mr. King.
This is just a nit, but are they going to plant additional trees, or should I sneak over there with vine and plant stuff? The wall, it's a nice wall.
Against the brick?
Yeah.
My discussions with Sunoco staff, they have really, and I don't want to be funny about it, but they're claiming that there is so much piping that they're having trouble locating. I suggested, and the staff suggested when we did a site visit, just to do a little bit of buffering coming eastbound on Boot. You look over and you see right into the, right up the driveway. I said, how about a nice line of arborvitae, just something. And there's piping right there where we.
That's where it comes across.
Exactly. So the site constraints are so tight there, but we will press them to do everything we can to beautify the site, because that was one of the settled items. We got to beautify it. So we're going to do everything we can. I'm going to
And you
suggest.
refer to that walk,
Sure.
beautification all the time.
Yeah.
Every time I get
Sure.
there, I say, walk's the only one that used the words.
And vines may soften the brick, so.
The other question is, the frames aren't around, but the other night they were awakened by a noise the
Oh,
other
yeah,
day.
I've got an update.
And, they were told it was that there was something wrong with the valve. They were told it was an alarm.
I sent police up there twice. When they got there, it was, whatever it was gone, but I believe that they heard something.
But I think we made the call, or the neighbors were calling early on. Is there a procedure that Sunoco has to touch base with you guys when there's an issue?
Well, we usually receive the complaints.
Well,
Well-
they call the 800 number.
Yeah, okay.
There is, if it's of a safety nature.
Yeah, if it's of a safety nature, Sunoco reported to me after the weekend with the call from the police, that there was, and again, I have to take what they say. One of the valves seals was seated incorrectly, and their technician fixed it. There was a second issue with the noise. Housing or cowling for the HVAC unit that cools the building was misaligned and causing some type of vibration. They are sending, so they claim, we'll see, technicians on site each weekend for the next few weekends, several times per day, Saturdays and Sundays, to ensure that there is no noise coming from that site that's not normal, let's say normal.
I have one follow-up question. I don't know if it's been repaired, but in the corner, which is opposite where the old 7-Eleven is, at Phoenixville Pike and Boot Road, one of their orange pipe markers got torn apart from the bulldozing from snow plowing.
Okay.
And a lot of them are lying right where, when they come along the snow plow, they're getting, just like the Comcast units are so close,
And
they're getting
mailboxes.
torn up. And so that pipe was leaning, and it was a pipe, not just one of their markers. I don't know how often they come and check it, but it was there for several weeks, just laying on its side. So
I don't
if
know
you could
their
check on
frequency.
that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
I guess my only other remark is what I have been hearing is the timing, and without having the agreement in front of me, I don't recall any like deadlines. So I have a lot of people asking me, like, well, not only are they complying with this, but when are they going to comply with this? And I think that's something that we should try to clarify when we, reach out to Sunoco, and with the understanding that sooner is better than later. And if they can get back to us on these very important issues, that would be greatly appreciated.
Mr. Casey?
I think part of the issue with why they may not be complying is because they're having a lot of trouble getting commitments for their second pipeline. It's only about 50% capacity, so this could impede their decision-making process as far as complying with certain things or giving you half information. So that's one of the reasons why they might be dragging their feet, because they're unaware of what exactly it is they have to do at the facility, at the site, to come out of it and to go down Boot Road. So until they know that, they can't say, well, we're going to plant trees, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So that's one small issue that they're facing right now. The other thing is, I'm sure everybody had gotten a letter along the pipeline route that they're going to be checking their 12-inch line. Their 12-inch line has had some problems as of late. There was a leak down along 352, down that way past Duffers, and that's their jet fuel line. And they may be considering repurposing it to carry this product as well. So that's another consideration, because they can't get commitments for their larger line. And they're also considering, instead of a 20-inch line, because they can commit to it, the first one, of making it a 24. So that's easier to get commitments for shipping purposes. So those are some of the issues why they may be postponing some of the answers for everybody. And they've alluded to this at local other town, East Goshen, Thornbury, and places like that. One of the questions I guess I have is, has Sunoco approached the township about this idea of 24/7 drilling?
Not us.
What is the township's stance on that?
Well, what they, when we met with them a few weeks ago, the drill rig is actually going to be located in West Whiteland. They're not doing any actual drilling in West Goshen, so it's just going to be passed through us. Since the noise would be located in West Whiteland,
And East Goshen, I think.
and East Goshen, yeah, except for adjacent property owners, we can monitor the noise, but
One of the drilling rigs is actually being proposed on the old 7-Eleven site.
not to us. We haven't heard that.
Right. So, but I've been in contact with the residents and the people that own that property, and that they've been approached for that. And they're going to cut off their entire parking lot and cut their business off. So that's one issue. And then the other is, the other rig is going to be sitting outside the Giant along Boot Road, which will absolutely impact
Oh, in East Goshen.
West. It doesn't, but it's going to impact West Goshen residents.
Sure.
So how does that work? If something's happening on the other side of the border and it's impeding our ordinance?
We have no jurisdiction over that. We'd have to talk to our attorneys about it, but we have no.
Well, I do know that there was.
And there is another one at the firehouse. There's a drilling rig going in the firehouse.
We don't have, all we have is that for storage.
Yeah,
Correct.
storage.
Files.
Well, according to Don, they're putting a rig there because they're going to be pulling the pipe from both ends from,
But they're not drilling.
no, they said they're drilling.
We just met with them like 3 weeks ago, and they're not drilling there. I mean, I'm not sure where you're.
Well, we'll.
I got it directly from Don at East Goshen. That's what I'm telling you. They're telling people that they're doing this. So if they're not telling you guys something and they're telling residents other things, then questions need to be asked. Because now I'm asked, I have a drilling rig on the left of me and I have a drilling rig on the right of me.
Who's Don?
Don Zlackwitz from Sunoco, the spokesperson, and also the engineer that they have that stands up there and speaks as well. So these things are being discussed, and was one of the issues that was coming up was about the drilling fluids that they're going to be using. So where is it going to go? What happens if there's an accident? So forth and so on. So these things are being said publicly right now. So if they're telling you one thing and they're telling the residents something else.
Yeah, the only information that we have right now on anything in West Goshen was storage on the property next to the firehouse. That's the only thing that we've been able to verify, and everything else is across the borders. So I don't have anything, but we made us aware, we're gonna ask.
Yeah.
We'll ask. Yeah.
Just one final, Mr. Craig may know the answer to this, but even though the actual drill rig won't be in West Goshen Township, it's going to be going down Loop Road. And I understand from a neighbor who's in the right of way that probably be 60 feet below at that point. But those rigs, I believe, drilling makes a lot of noise and a lot of vibration. They likened it to a truck going, a series of very large dump trucks loaded dump trucks going by your house. So the fact that it's going 24/7, and it's gonna sound like a bunch of dump trucks going down Loop Road.
Have they been given permission from other townships for
No.
24/7?
No, and they haven't, from East Goshen's perspective, they're not planning on it.
You said there won't be any noise, but evidently this stuff is, and I'm not an authority, I don't know. If you know better, if you know differently, please tell me, but these things are, 24/7, these things would be a nightmare.
Well, as of right now, the township's position is they have to comply with our noise ordinance.
Right.
So they have to comply with the noise ordinance.
And we don't, well,
Yeah.
we're so strict with just our paving situation. We're no.
Casey alluded to the fact that, it's not, because they're not drilling, the rigs aren't gonna be in the township, but I think.
Well,
it's a secondary
it
issue.
wouldn't stop if they were gonna transport and move them, State Road, you're not gonna be able to stop them.
Right.
It's the point of it is, I would be more alarmed with operations 24/7,
Right.
and.
One of the things they proposed at East Goshen was that they could try it out because East Goshen has a 7 to 10 p.m. ordinance, and they wanted to drill further into the night because they were concerned if when they stop drilling, their drill bit is locked underground, and when they start it back up, they're snapping off drill heads. That's one of the reasons why. The other was they said that they would go to the residents along the pipe route who are going to be impacted by this and ask them to have spot zoning for this ordinance. And then they were going to hang extra noise blankets, and I mean that's how ridiculous they're getting.
That is ridiculous.
So the problem is what they're telling you guys and what they're telling the people elsewhere, because I've heard this twice now, that they're going to be putting a rig at the firehouse because they need to drill this way and they drill this way and they pull the pipe through, and that's what they're planning on doing because
I'm
they
not
also
sure that
have
we
to
can
go
stop
under.
what they did with the right of way, but we certainly don't know about it, and we better ask.
Right. So
We want to know.
And I mean, to your
Yes.
point.
I had a question, from what I read from the East Goshen, and Kristen, you can enlighten me. If they wanted to drill 24/7, don't they have to get a variance because they're changing the work hours? Don't they?
Yeah, it would meet their noise, the East Goshen has it both in their noise ordinance and in their zoning.
So they have to go for a zoning variance as well as violating. Now, in West Goshen, the noise ordinance refers to boundaries, so you would still have some jurisdiction because whatever the closest property is, the boundary line, you have the decibel level, so you'd still be able to enforce your own noise ordinance. I guess I would ask if they approach you for a
first.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Well-
I'm just asking publicly, so we
Yeah, and I don't
don't get
think-
surprised.
West Goshen's noise regs are not in their zoning,
Right.
it's standalone
Right,
chapter.
right.
So, but I think based on what people are
But the
concerned
work
about, we
hours
can
are-
ask for another, either through David or through myself and Casey, we can ask for another, similar to what East Goshen did. I think East Goshen invited them to come to a public meeting to let the public know, what are your plans now that construction is coming in the future? So that's something that we can, the board can decide if they want to do that at a public meeting or have staff or their council have that meeting and then report back at the next public meeting.
I agree the noise ordinances are outside the zone, but how about the work hours?
I think that's all within the noise ordinance.
That's in the noise ordinance as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yep.
And drilling's in there
Chris,
too.
you had something?
I said drilling's in that ordinance as well, so.
Correct.
What's that?
No, actually, Liddy asked the question I was going to ask, once again.
See, great line.
There you go.
There you go. David's got to leave, so is there any other questions with regards to Sunoco tonight? Please ask him, because the captain, hoped I would get you out of here, but I wanted you here, so. Is there any other question with Sunoco?
Just one final, he alluded to, a new confidentiality agreement?
Yeah, for MA2, to the extent that they turn over documents, contracts that would be confidential, it'll be similar to a review that was done for MA1.
Yeah, but ME1, we both had something to gain. They have,
The settlement agreement requires confidentiality before anybody could review their materials.
This is all their
It's
for
proprietary.
Mariner 1,
very technical.
but not for Mariner 2.
It's-
Sure.
Yeah, for America.
Okay. They would never provide that information to the township if it wasn't on subject to a confidentiality agreement.
And have you, any word on my request from last month about the clean air case and how it might impact?
To be determined is the answer to that. And the reason I say that is there was actually an oral argument today in Commonwealth Court en banc, meaning all of the justices in the Commonwealth Court heard a case that arose out of Cumberland County, actually 3 separate cases in Cumberland County that were combined by the court and heard today. The issue being, are they or are they not a public utility subject to eminent domain? So I suspect the Commonwealth Court's going to give some guidance separate apart from the Commonwealth Court. The Clean Air Council case probably will live on because it was in a different procedural context, i.e. meaning it wasn't in the eminent domain context, and it raises some issues that can't be decided in the eminent domain context, specifically the constitutional issues. So I suspect it will live on. Other than monitoring closely for the township, I don't think there's anything to do right now as to whether it could affect the settlement and or what they can and can't do going forward with ME2. That's to be determined.
Any timeline on that too, am I ignorant?
I think the Commonwealth Court will rule quickly. I'd say 4 months. That's my guess.
The last decision I had was 3 weeks.
It could be that quickly, given, the juice that they have and the significance of the issue, but we'll see.
Any other questions?
Just a curiosity question. I mean, we're going back to our agreement stage months ago, and I guess that's a question I am hearing from a lot of people. Maybe you could break it down to them in layman's terms of what is it now that would require a judge, a common pleas judge, to say, at least preliminarily, I don't buy your argument that you're a public utility in a Clean Air Council case, as compared to us back then when we were negotiating, and that public utility issue was a very important issue.
What was significant to us was the amount of contracts that we reviewed that were in trust contracts, and the case law at the time that basically held if they had any intrastate connection, they were a public utility. The Clean Air Council case would create new law, in my opinion, in the sense that it seems to be going in a direction that if there's not a substantial intrastate connection, then it's calling public utility status into question. That would be new law, and of course, one would need to then define substantial.
Dave, isn't that also the case that at the time of the agreement, we were dealing with only the
have two additional comments from what I heard. The most important, I think, is you should consider doing a baseline noise study, because defense to noise is baseline. So I don't know whether that can be done in-house or you retain someone, but I would seriously consider a baseline noise study. For the known areas of drill rigs, I agree with Mr. Casey, they're noisy, and they have been offering to those areas that are close to residents or even businesses what are called noise curtains, and they're big canvas, basically barriers that go up as high as 20 to 30 feet around the drill rig to try to buffer the noise. So that's an issue. The second, and not to disagree with you, but just the information I have from them is that it's at ME3 that's doesn't have the customers. They're in open season still, but ME2 is fully accounted for, if you will, and it's a 20-inch line.